Hey everybody, welcome back to another 10-minute Marvel video. I'm Petter, and today I just got done watching Daredevil Born Again episode 7, which I'm still processing kind of my thoughts on this episode overall, so especially once we get into spoilers, I'm going to just talk through it. Because I think there's a lot I really like in this episode. I think there's some really interesting elements to it. It also is interesting because, like, compared to the last episode, which it does pick up on, like, very much on plot lines and stuff like that in the last episode, this just feels tonally slightly different, and definitely somewhat different than some of the previous episodes. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Shows regularly, unless you're doing something very episodic, do give you that little bit of a different feel as you go along, depending on if it's more dramatic or more lighthearted. Is there supposed to be suspense? All that jazz. But this episode really gets back to some of the elements that we see early in the season and pays that off, which I like. It built up a decent arc. It just kind of makes the feeling of last episode feel more rushed, which is unfortunate because, like I said last episode 7, was a good episode, really strong episode, just wasn't set up properly. And this, unfortunately, kind of really makes you feel the fact that it wasn't set up properly. In this one, though, I think we get interesting character progression for a couple of different characters in there, and it works well. And I'm excited to see how this finale goes. There's certainly elements that are in the trailers we haven't seen yet, and I'm really curious to see how they play out. So overall, a good episode. Unfortunately, because last episode felt rushed to get to that point, this one still suffers a little bit from that, because that one should have felt like one peak and this one like another, and they do, but not quite in the same way. So let's move into spoiler talk here. Spoilers. You have been warned. Spoilers. Alright, spoilers start now. What I mean by that is we really jump back into a completely different story here with Bullseye. We get back into Bullseye being brought into the general population, general holding, instead of being on his own, with the understanding, Fisk kind of ordering it, with the understanding that Bullseye is going to get killed. Of course, that doesn't happen. Matt actually messes that up. So that was an interesting little element to it, and we'll talk about Bullseye more, because now Bullseye has a vendetta. So that was interesting. The part to me that still feels off about this, and feels rushed, is the Matt and Heather dynamic. And so I want to talk about that here, because she is very now anti-vigilante. Okay. Wants to know what's going on in their head. Obviously, with the events that happened last episode with Muse, it makes sense why. But now she's projecting onto Daredevil as well. And I think there is a little bit of truth to it. She's projecting this idea that to feel significant, Daredevil has to put on the mask. And I think that is true. I think that's been the struggle for Matt in this season, is like he's tried to ignore that element and just focus on being a good lawyer. But that's not who he is. He felt like it was his fault, his responsibility that got Foggy taken out somehow. They actually addressed the fact that we don't know why Bullseye was there. And Bullseye hints at, like, okay, somebody paid me to do it. Somebody brought me in to take out Foggy. And to me, it's just elements of the story that should have been spent more time on and building up to. I think if we could have seen Heather's breach of trust with Bastion really have been built up to that point, I think that would have been made for a more impactful, well, this episode. This division that's starting to form between Heather and Matt as Matt dives back into his other life as Daredevil, even if it's just for this one time in his head. Obviously, he thinks that. But now she has such a strong reaction, and Matt, fairly for who he is and what he does as Daredevil, has a strong reaction back towards her. And I think that is just a good, well thought out idea that isn't given enough time to shine. Like, it's something that makes sense, but we didn't sit with it long enough. And a lot of that still comes down to the build up to episode 7. But here, it is interesting too. Well, one, we find out, get our Luca question answered real quick. That was a setup to take Luca out. I like how they let us sit in that for an episode. And now they are on the same page. And not only are they on the same page, they're so fully on the same page that Kingpin reveals the fact that he has Adam in a cell, and Vanessa kills Adam. It's basically like, we are bearing the past. You have said you are back now. I believe you. So let us take a step forward together. And that worked well, and I thought it worked well in terms of also them playing out at the ball, or at the gala, where it was them very much on the same page. Now, I do think there could have been, and maybe should have been, a little bit more time of Matt struggling with the idea of the costume too, because this episode again touches on that, and it would help set Matt into the mindset of where he is at the end of the episode. But the episode really, it takes a decent turn and really gets political too, not in terms of like our real world modern politics necessarily, but the different factions working within Fisk's government and around it. We have the vigilante group, we have Fisk and Vanessa, we have the police commissioner, we have, anti-vigilante group I said, we have Daniel, who gets promoted to deputy mayor of communication, and we have Bibi, who obviously she's trying to hunt down her own scoop. There's just a lot going on that feels right for the show, but it also feels different from what we've seen. And then at the end, the end, obviously, I'm kind of doing some recapping and talking about this, but at the end, Matt puts himself in harm's way for Fisk. And this one is an interesting thing to me because why does Matt do that? Why does he protect Fisk from when Bullseye comes to take out Fisk? I'm a little bit surprised it was Fisk, not Vanessa. I thought there was a chance we were going to have Vanessa get shot in Daredevil's, Matt's arms during that dance sequence, which would have been impactful as well. But why does Matt do that? And I think, there's a number of reasons I think why he does that. One is just that Matt Murdock, Daredevil, they are a good person. They will protect somebody, even somebody who they kind of see as an enemy. They'll still protect them from a threat. And I think it also is to start to get... did Matt intentionally want to get shot as badly as he did? No. But there's also, I think, a little of a mindset of prove Fisk wrong. He's going to confront Fisk on his anti-vigilante group and talk about that. So I think there's an element around there. But really, the big thing is that Matt is going to always protect people. And that, I think, is going to be some of what we see coming into episode 9 here, and really into season 2, is we're going to have this mind of, is New York going to be better off with the Vigilante Task Force? Or is it going to be a situation, and the answer is no. The Vigilante Task Force they're not good people. As the police commissioner says, he has a file on every one of the bad apples. But who does a better job of it? Is the anti-vigilante task force going to get so focused on chasing down vigilantes, which makes me think we could get other characters like Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, probably not Danny Rand, but possibly Danny Rand, the Vendors Group, back again, as they're having to deal with, now, what does it mean to be wearing a mask in New York, or to be fighting crime? I do like how he calls out the swordsman, Fisk does, basically to do some fundraising. But it's a good story that they have going forward. And I think the story of this season, and probably going to be my feeling of this show after the finale, is that this is a good season, but it misses because it's two different shows, seasons combined together. And sometimes it's seamless, other times it's not. And yeah, it is a well thought out at parts, and then just kind of that mishmash at other parts. And I said this on the podcast, I wish they had taken out the bit about the guy with the fiddle faddle. That was enough time right there to have created 3 scenes to add to the show, to have one scene with Matt and Heather to really continue to develop that relationship, and then 2 scenes to introduce us to Bastion. And I think that would have been great. But they did mention it, at least. They did mention it again. Here, overall, yeah, like I said, I'm excited to see what they can do for season 2 at this point. I do expect season 1 is going to end fairly strong, very violently. Frank Castle is supposed to be in it, so I expect the Vigilante Task Force, Anti-Vigilante Task Force to lose some members. And that to actually be some of the reason why the Anti-Vigilante Task Force continues to be a thing. It's kind of that double-edged sword. Stab at the enemy, stab at the bad cops, but you do it as a masked character. You're proving the point of Fisk, so you're ruining your own case, which I like. I like that for a story. I also wonder, too, and we've kind of seen this from Fisk in episode 7, and then with the fact that Matt saved him here in episode 8, there's this level of respect for Daredevil and appreciation of kind of his own nemesis in Daredevil that I wonder if Fisk is going to keep the Vigilante Task Force off Daredevil to continue to toy with him. And I'd love that as a story element. Might continue some into season 2 easily, I think, at this point. And I really hope they continue with kind of some of these more political maneuverings. There is, I think it's Lily Taylor. I don't remember the name anymore, unfortunately, off the top of my head. Ooh, I can look it up right here. Maybe. Nope, I don't have it anymore. Thought I had my notes from the podcast, but from... Again, I'm going to blank on the show here. Open Range. She is supposed to be coming into season 2 as a political rival to Fisk. And so I think we are going to get some more of those political workings, which should be fun, and I think could be really well done for this show, because Fisk is so not typical for a politician. Even when he tries to play by the rules, he's not a typical politician, and I appreciate that and how they are handling it here in the show. But let me know your thoughts on episode 8 down in the comment section below. Are you still enjoying the show? I'm not going to put up a poll this week, but after episode 9 next week, check out the posts on the 10 Minute Marvel YouTube page, and there will be a poll to see what you think of it. But drop some comments down below. What did you think of this episode? And I appreciate everybody checking out this content. Please give videos a thumbs up if you enjoy them. And like I said, you can check out our full thoughts on the previous episodes over on the podcast. You can find the podcast here on YouTube. Click onto the channel. Subscribe if you haven't already. Click that notification bell. That's going to tell you when new videos like this come out so you can hear early thoughts. And then click on the podcast tab. Or you can search for 10 Minute Marvel wherever you get your friendly neighborhood podcast from. But with that, we'll see you next time.